episode 3 of the Racing Pigeon podcast with Kevin and Wes. And today we've got some interviews set up. But pretty much the whole podcast day is going to be us giving you a sneak peek into the industry with some with a loft owner and somebody from one of the one of the governing boards, or I guess I wouldn't call it governing boards, but who are we talking to?
Yeah, we're talking to Paul Kaufmann, who's he's on the board of the AU. He's the bylaws chairman. He
And
also runs
AU
Help
for our newbies, or AU is
American Racing Pigeon Union. Yeah, one of our national sanctioning clubs, um, the biggest one actually in America. So he'll be joining us to talk about kind of the state of the sport, and then what's involved with getting started. Who can get started, how much time's involved, and we'll talk about what the AU is doing to kind of promote the sport and grow the sport in the country. So it should be a fascinating discussion with Paul.
awesome. Great. Looking forward to it. And the other segment, who's that going to be?
We have Richard from FourFlights Loft. He's had a very successful 2025 season flying the one loft races. I think he's won money in practically every race he's entered this season. So
Wow.
he's kind of an up and comer. I think he's only been flying one loft races for 4 or 5 years.
Oh,
And
no.
to
Okay.
have the level, yeah, to have the level of success he's having already, we definitely want to pick his brain a little bit, see what he's doing. So
Well, sounds good. Well, let's take a little break here for one of our ads, and we'll jump right into it.
all right, welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Racing Pigeon Podcast. We are very happy to be joined by Mr. Paul Kaufmann today. Paul is joining us from Colorado. So, Paul, tell us a little bit about your history in the sport and what you do currently for the hobby.
I started flying in about 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. I got into it just barely. I was living over in Greeley, Colorado. I've been doing falconry since '96, and so I needed some pigeons. And went into a feed store and I asked if they had a guy that might have some pigeons in a barn that I could trap or to be able to use for my falconry. And he gave me a business card and he said, "Here, call this guy." And so I called him up and he says, "Yeah, I think I probably got some racing pigeons I could get you." And I said, "What? Wait a minute, racing pigeons?" And he told me all about it. And of course I was hooked. And that was my introduction to racing. He gave me a small loft and a few pigeons and whatnot. And that was my start to it. And then, life kind of happened and I had to get out of it for a little while. And then in 2009, I got married, moved down to Texas, and got into pigeons down there, and been flying ever since from there. But that's that's kind of where I started and how it all began, and then it's just gotten bigger and bigger for me since then. Been flying here out of the Grand Junction Club since 2000, and I think we probably got in here about 2014, 2015. And
Okay,
then we started a new club here in Rifle this year. This year was our first year. So
really?
um, yeah,
Wow.
that's how I started with everything, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, and then what's your current kind of position with the AU?
So with the AU, I am the Constitution and Bylaws chairman. Then I also do the Help a Beginner program, and I help the youth. So the Constitution and Bylaws is my main focus. That takes up most of my time with it. There's always something going on with the Constitution and Bylaws, and people asking questions about what do we do with this or that. But then the Help a Beginner program has been a lot of fun. We get phone calls from all over the nation about people wanting to get started, and what does this take, how much money, all kinds of
So,
questions, the same questions we all ask, when we get
yeah,
started.
so that's
But
what we're gonna talk a lot about that today. So I'm real curious from your point of view, what do you think the state of the hobby is today in America as far as racing pigeons? Are we at the peak? Have we peaked 20 years ago? Are we
yeah, I don't
declining? Kind of
yeah, we're
what's your
nowhere near
feeling?
what we were, back. If you look in some of the old yearbooks from the AU, the conventions were massive. Tons of people showed up for those birds. There, probably in the thousands of birds that were in those races. It's definitely a lot different now. Our total membership, I don't know, probably somewhere around 14,000, 15,000, something like that. And the AU, we were always doing stuff to kind of promote the sport and see what we can do to bring in more members. The youth is a huge concentration of where we focus everything. Without the youth, this becomes an old man's sport type thing, and it dies off. It's kind of the way falconry was. But now there's younger generations that are getting an interest in this, and you start seeing a resurgence of it. And same thing with the pigeons. It's definitely got its interest. We get 4-H groups, grade schools, high schools, all kinds of youth age groups that are
Yeah.
now contacting us and saying, "Hey, how do we get involved with this? How does this work? What is it?"
Yeah. What
And
is it? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I own Timberline Sporting Goods right out here, and I've got a banner at the register that says "Come fly with us," and it's an AU advertisement. And every now and then we get people that see that. It's like,
Oh,
"What's
that's
pigeon
sweet.
racing? How does this work?" And so we get
Yeah.
to talk with them, and
Yeah.
we're hoping to grow the sport, and it's coming along. It's nowhere near where we want it, but it's definitely improving.
So why do you think it declined? What happened? Um, what are the
You know, I think
reasons?
I think a lot of it is the cost. I mean, we have inflation. And everybody's struggling. Everybody's having a hard time making ends meet. We all, it's paycheck to paycheck, and it's like any other hobby. It does take a little bit of money to get started.
Uh-huh.
And then you got to feed and water, and you take care of them, and you got vet bills, and whatever. So there is a little bit of a cost to it, and I think that's the biggest thing that I hear from people that are talking to me about getting started, and they hear, oh well, I gotta build something. I gotta do. It's not like just putting them in a bird cage. You got to
Yeah.
have
It's
something
sitting
that
them
you
in your
can
living room,
tease.
right?
Yeah,
Doesn't
they got
work.
to have something that they can, they call home also, and they got a loft. So there is that cost, and that's the initial hesitation up front that I hear from most people. And then usually, the ones that get the bug bad enough, they come back in and say, "Okay, we got it figured out. We got our loft. Now what?"
Yeah.
And most local clubs will give you birds. Getting birds isn't the hard part.
That's
Most
right.
local clubs, and we encourage, through the AU, we encourage the clubs, don't give these new members just trash birds. Don't give them your coals. Give
Mhm.
them good stuff. And
Give them good
then,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, then when they're successful, they stay in the sport longer, and then they continue. They get, it just it compounds from there. And you pay it forward. Give them good stuff.
Yep.
You'll gain a new member for long term.
Yep. Yep. So what are some ways the AU is actively trying to grow the sport? I mean, what is the AU doing can the AU make it more affordable somehow, or what can the AU do to help get
Yep.
us going again, so to
So
speak?
we're, I think every time we have a board meeting, which is about every other month now, this is one of the main questions that we're always addressing is like, how do we get more members? How do we promote the sport?
Yeah.
We've got, there's the veterans program that we're doing.
Okay.
We've got YouTube videos that are popping up. The AU has more of a presence online, especially through the Facebook side of things.
Yeah.
We got the ladies in the office that are really good with that Facebook stuff and sending things out, kind of keeping people informed.
Yeah.
The magazine that the AU has called the Update that comes out every now and then, quarterly. That's got more and more information in it. We're starting to hit the advertising part of it with the kids.
Mhm.
I guess that's my main focus is the kids. We also try to get, we got programs for veterans. I've got with the Help a Beginner program. It's not always just kids. I had a veteran that just called me maybe a month or so ago and was
Hmm.
asking, how do I get started? And what do
No
I
way.
do? And so we helped him out. We've got programs where we can, if you sign up with a club and they verify that you have a loft, you've got your dues paid, you've got all these different things. We got a few steps there that you got to meet, but we'll give you a clock to use. And then
No
that gets
way.
you started. And then if you decide, hey, I want to buy the clock, I want to buy another one, you return that one to the AU, and then
Yep.
we got it to use for somebody else that's just getting started. So, we
Oh,
do help out with the finances a little bit in that
yeah.
regard, but
Yeah.
we can only do so much. And
Yep. That's
but the
right.
clock is a big part of it. So
Yeah.
we do have some clocks to help people get started and get going.
Yeah. Sounds like it has to be a real grassroots effort,
It
really
is
starting at the club level, as
absolutely.
far as the club being visible in their community, going to 4-H events or going to elementary schools, trying to just for me, I think it's just spreading awareness of the sport. And I mentioned this before on another, previous episode of our podcast, but I went to ship my birds to a one loft race last year, and there was a new young girl working at the post office. And of course, you get the questions, well, what's in the box? It's because it says, and I said, well, they're pigeons. And she said, oh, where are they going? What are you doing with them? I'm like, oh, well, they're racing pigeons. I'm sending them to a race. And she just got real confused. And she said, I wow, I didn't know pigeons could run that fast.
Yeah.
And it took me for a loop. For a minute, I'm like, huh? And then I'm like, oh no. I was like, no, that's not what we're doing here, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny, I just picked up birds the other day from the post office that came back from Texas, and there were three postal workers in the back because I can't get there till after they close. So I go in the back door. They all know me, and So a couple of the postal workers were in there and like, "Oh, you're the bird guy." I said, "Yeah." And they're like, what's these doves?" I said, "They're not doves." I said, "They're pigeons." So I said, "You got a knife?" I said, "I'll just open the box." So I opened the box and I'm in the back of the post office getting three pigeons out of the box and showing them, the birds. And they're like, "Whoa, look at the colors. Look at
Yeah.
it's just people aren't aware, and like that's the
Yep.
biggest thing. I think that's the biggest hurdle. And then once you make them aware, then of course it's, well, how much does it cost to get into it?
Yeah.
And like that's where you lose people. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I need this, I need a clock, I need a special building, I need this, I need that. Yeah, it sounds interesting, but I'm out. I don't have all that, right? How much So can people fly pigeons in the city? Is this
Oh
only
yeah.
something you can do if you have a 20-acre property? Like, I think that's a common misconception, right? Like,
Yeah. No, it doesn't
you
take
don't
any
need
room
a
at
lot
all.
of room for this, right?
Yeah. So I was in a rental. I was renting a house way back when, when I lived in Greeley. I was in a rental and I talked to the landlord and they said, "Yeah, I don't care. How big's the building you're going to have them in?" I said, "Oh, it's only like 4 by 8." I
Oh,
started
wow.
with a real tiny garden shed is basically what it was. It was enough room for me to get in there and turn around, and that was about it.
Yep.
But I was able to keep like, a dozen birds in there and
Yeah, yeah.
did just fine.
Yep.
But, and then you can always fly with something even smaller than that. I mean, if you look
Oh,
at,
yeah.
if you pull up pigeon racing lofts on Google, you'll see
Mhm.
some of these things that are like four birds and it's a mobile,
Yeah.
you could literally just wheel these things around to different places, but it
Yeah.
doesn't take a whole lot. But, I
Yeah.
always tell people that 4 by 8 that I started with, it was great. It was an easy thing for me to build. I've got a
Yeah.
background in construction and whatnot, so
Oh,
I built that thing in a weekend. But you
oh,
can
wow.
go to like Lowe's and Home Depot and some of these places, they've got these pre-built sheds and
Yep.
those work just fine.
That's what this
So
one was.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, they work
But
great,
not from there, but it was another company that builds them. But
Yeah,
yep. And then I just modified it, right? So,
yep.
but yeah. So what about if you lived in the city? I mean, could you literally keep pigeons in your bedroom and like, I mean,
We've
would it work?
actually, so we have a guy in our club that has his loft on his balcony.
No.
He's in an apartment. He's
Ah,
here in town, and he has been flying off of his balcony in a little tiny loft. I mean, that thing can't be, maybe 2 or 3 feet deep, and it's maybe 4 or 5 feet wide. And he
wow.
cleans it from the outside. Doesn't even have to get in there. He just opens it up, cleans it
Oh
from the
my.
inside. It's very little, but yeah,
Yeah.
it absolutely works. It's just right there on his balcony. And
Okay.
he flew out of that thing. He's moved now, but he flew out of that for, gosh, I bet I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years, something like that. He was flying before I met him,
Yeah.
and I've known him for
Wow.
10 years now, but he's now moved. But anyway, yeah, you absolutely can do it.
That's
The
wild.
You don't have to have a lot of space. When I was flying in town, I had a small loft in the backyard as long as the landlord approves it and whatnot. The only other thing is this is ordinances, city ordinances and whatnot. Some places are perfectly fine with it, and other places I think some of the cities, and this is what we are finding with some of the issues that we've had with city stuff, dealing with constitution and bylaws. I get calls every now and then from someone that says, "Well, I had pigeons and now the city's trying to shut me down and yada, yada, yada." Well, talk with them. All you
Yep.
have to do is say, "Hey, here's what they do.
Yep.
We keep better care of these than a lot of people do their own cats and dogs. They're
Exactly.
fed better than most people."
Yep.
And once they're aware that these aren't just wild pigeons, these are actually athletes. They compete. They'll go 500,000 miles, whatever. Once
Yep.
they understand that, they're usually willing to work with us a little bit, and
Yeah.
it might take a little bit of time, but they're willing to work with us. And the AU will even send out some information to say, "Hey, this is
Mm.
what we recommend. This is how you keep your loft clean. This is, and all this different type of stuff that the AU can help with that." But
Mm-hmm.
once the cities and they see this stuff that's a real thing, then
Yep.
they're more apt to say, "Okay, how
Yep.
can we make this to where people can accept make this
Yeah.
accessible but not something that's going to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So I think that's on our side of things too, where, keep up with your loft. Don't let the smell get real bad. Don't make it look
Yeah.
trashed out. Don't use, just rotten lumber, and don't make it, just a
Right.
patchwork thing. Make it look
Yep.
nice.
Yep.
And that goes a long ways, especially with
Yeah.
neighbors,
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
it's just an educational thing. Like you were saying, make people aware of what it is, how it
Exactly.
works, and it's
Yep.
not just the feral pigeon. I've had times where, when I do these shows for the kids and whatnot, and I know there's going to be adults there,
Yep.
with my falconry stuff, I've kind of got the luxury of being able to catch feral pigeons with those birds. So I'll
Yeah.
catch a feral pigeon and get it live from
Uh-huh.
my hawks. And then I'll
Yeah.
take that feral pigeon in with my homing pigeons and show them the difference
Show
in
them
the
the
size.
difference.
And I mean, it's completely different.
Yeah.
But once they see that, it kind of makes a connection. It's like, okay, yeah, this obviously been taken much better care of than this
Yep.
this common or this
Yep.
feral pigeon. So that it's a visual thing for them to see that, yeah, this it really is a different type of thing. It's not just letting these wild birds fly around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, they're not what do they call them? Rats that can fly, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
rats of the sky.
yeah, yeah, rats of the skies.
Yep.
Definitely not. I mean, if
Nope.
and once people are around the pigeons, I mean, you see how intelligent they are and
Yeah.
how they know you. I think a lot of people don't know, but pigeons know faces. So I
Yeah.
mean, my birds know when I walk in the loft. If a stranger walks in there, they're all, but I walk in there and they don't,
Right.
I'm like it's one of them, right? I'm one of them.
I
And
don't
so they're
remember
really
where
intelligent and
I don't remember where I read this. I think it was maybe it was on the AU stuff that they put out, but the pigeons can remember, I think it's 50 faces,
wow,
and
that's incredible.
recognize 50 different people.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
incredible.
they
But then you
absolutely know
figure,
who you are.
well, these are birds that can be taken 1,000 miles away and
Yeah.
somehow find their way home. So
Right.
memorizing 50 faces should be easy, right?
Yeah. Seems like nothing. Seems like no problem.
Yeah, it seems like no problem, right? But they are really cool creatures. So I think it's fabulous that the AU is doing that. I love that they lend a clock out. That is actually something I
Yep.
didn't know about. Because when I got back into it, I mean, I had to shell out, we won't say clock prices, but
Yeah.
it's a lot,
It
right?
gets
To get
expensive.
the clock, especially with the new clocks, right? That are all digital, they're touch screen, they
Right.
have the GPS. So, someone doesn't have to come out to your loft anymore and get your GPS coordinates. It's all done by satellites now, and it's cool, but you have to pay for that. And that was kind of a shock for me when I got back into the hobby. I'm like, well, I thought a clock was, $300-400. Like, no. I'm like,
Yeah. You can
right?
still pick up some. There's some that appear on the used market from time to time, and that's what we always try to
Yeah, you
help
can.
with people that are getting started.
Yep.
Even our local club, we've got three clocks that I purchased when I started the club. I just
Oh
bought
wow.
three extra clocks and said, all right,
Oh
these are
wow.
loaners for our club. And
Mm-hmm.
then that way, if we do have someone that wants to start and join us, I can at least say, hey, I got a clock for you.
Yeah,
And,
exactly
that
right.
helps with at least, like I said, at least 300 to 500, if not more.
Oh
And,
yeah.
it's
Sure.
like any hobby, golf, you can spend a couple
Yep.
$100 on clubs, or you can spend a couple thousand.
That's
So
right.
it's the same
Exactly.
way. But,
Exactly.
yeah, it is a big expense, and you don't, and that's a hesitation. People don't want to buy something like that. And then a year from now say, this isn't really for me. And then go, well, now
Mm-hmm.
what do I do with this clock?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
So
when,
is this hobby, is it accessible to somebody that works,
oh yeah,
let's say, a full-time job? I mean, I think a
sure.
lot of people have little bit of a misconception, right? Like, I don't have time. I don't have time to take care of a building full of birds and do whatever you got to do with them. Like, I don't have the time. I'm interested, but I work 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week. I can't do this. I don't have time. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, you do. I own a business. I own two businesses, and you talk about short on time. It's always something. But you want to fly pigeons, you'll figure out a way to fly pigeons, and you have time. It's there's always time there. It doesn't take a lot. In the beginning, you're hatching birds, you're getting your team together, or else you're getting them from somebody else. You're getting a young bird team together. Then it's just a matter of flying them. Get them out and train them down the road. You wake up a little bit before sunrise so you can be to your destination wherever you're training from. Right at the crack of dawn, you pop those things open and you head to work. You don't have to go back to the house. You
Yeah,
can
yeah,
head to
yeah. Let
work
them in.
and yeah, let the birds train themselves. They'll fly home, they'll go in and eat when they get there. It's not a lot of time, but yeah, it does take a little bit of time that you got to have your commitment to them as well. But I do hear that. That's another thing where I hear, we get talking about it and they're past that point of, the shed or the muse or the,
Yep.
whatever they want to call it, having the loft built and whatever.
Yep.
Then,
Yep.
there's like, well, yeah, I got a shed we haven't used in 10 years. We'll use that. Okay, perfect.
Yep. Perfect.
Now
Yep.
you do this. Here's how you train the birds. And then that's where I hear that all the time. It's like, oh, I don't have time. I work
I
40
don't have time
hours.
for
And
that.
I always, just to kind of lighten it up, I always tell them, oh, that's it. And
Yeah,
then
that's
they're,
right. Right.
and then I tell them, look, I've got two businesses. I'm here all the time. You guys see me here at the store all the time. I'm here all the time, but
Yep.
I still raise these pigeons. I still race. You can
Yeah,
do this.
you can
And then
do
they're
it.
like, well, yeah, okay. And,
Yeah.
not having time is not a good excuse. You
Yeah.
can do this with very little time.
I agree. I agree. I also work full time and do it as well. And
Yeah.
it's challenging, but
Yeah.
you can do it. You can
But
do
it's
it.
a short
You
amount
just
of time. You're training your birds right before race season. You
yep.
got a month or two there, depending on
Yep.
how far you want to go with it, whatnot. We always
Yep.
tell people get them out to 70 miles and then, you're
Yep.
pretty good.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
it doesn't, it's not like you're getting up early all year long.
No,
It's just
no.
a little bit it's that 6 to 8 weeks before and you start training, get out to 70 miles, take them once to 100 miles, you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
No, that is super. I agree wholeheartedly with you, Paul, on that one. So you mentioned before, and this is probably the last thing we'll cover for today. You mentioned before that a lot of clubs will give new flyers pigeons, right?
yeah.
Um, but let's say you live, but let's say maybe your club is small, and the flyers are like, well, I don't have, just don't have a lot of birds, so so you can't scrounge up free birds. Um, I mean, what do you where do you buy birds? What do you look for when you're buying a bird? How much is too much to spend on a bird? Now, again, as a very new person beginner, what would your
Sure.
advice be to somebody like that?
Yep. So first off, I would stay with the local guys. Stay with the guys that are in your club. We've got a very small club here, but when we know we've got a member that's looking at joining, we will find a way to breed you some birds.
Okay.
You know, the local guys more than likely are willing to help you, and if they say, yeah, hey, I'll breed you a late round, breed you some out of my late birds, some late hatches, things like that. It's
Mhm.
great. It's
Yeah.
still birds that you can get and start flying. Uh, Local's always best. Those guys have the birds that race where you're going to race. They've done well on the courses that you're going to be racing. So those
Uh-huh.
birds, I mean, you would think a pigeon is a pigeon, a racing pigeon's a racing pigeon. That's not always the case. You get some of these birds that do well here in the mountains of Colorado, but I send them down to a race in Texas and they might do horrible. I might have birds that are better suited for cold weather rather than hot and humid, or they might do better out on the coast in California than they do in a race in Ohio or whatever. So
Yeah.
local birds for racing in your local clubs like this and getting started, I always try to push people to go to those local members and get birds from as local as you can. If it's so small and those guys don't have birds, then I would look, stretch out to the next club. What's the next closest club to you? Talk to those guys. Can I maybe buy some birds from you? Can I get some late rounds or whatever? But I try to stay as local as possible whenever I'm getting birds for the local races. If you want to start getting into the one loft stuff, that's a completely different story.
Yeah.
Then you gotta, then you're talking about different regions of the nation and what you're going to do there, and that's
Yeah.
completely different. Not
Completely.
even not even remotely the same.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Sounds good, Paul. That sounds good. Well, I'm going to give you the last word today, Paul. It's been a pleasure having you on. What do you want our viewers to know? What's the final word here?
If you're not a member of the AU, please join the AU. Our strength is in numbers with this stuff, and there's not a lot of people that know about pigeon racing, but we are on the incline. If you're not a member, that's the biggest thing I can say is please join us. Even if you're not interested in flying, you don't have to be a person that has pigeons. We still take your membership and would love to have you with us. But if there's anything I can do, more than welcome to reach out to me, and I'll help you get started any way we can. And we'd love to have you flying.
Do you have any contact info you can share for Help a Beginner program? Is there a phone number, an
Sure.
email, or anything?
Yeah, you can call me direct. My number, it's even listed there on the AU website. It's 970-620-5659. My email is paul at timberlinesports.com. And I can, I can answer either one of those real easy. Kaufmann Lofts LLC at gmail.com is another one that I use quite often with my pigeon stuff. So either one of those emails I check almost daily. But
Perfect.
yeah, I would absolutely love to help you get going.
And the AU, which is pigeon.org website,
Yes.
pigeon.org. The AU has a club finder tool on there, I believe, right? So if
Yes,
you
there
are
is. You can
listening,
type in your zip code and then
okay,
you can type in a radius of how far you want to look, and it'll
okay,
pop up every club that we have that's inside that radius.
okay, perfect. And what if
Yep.
they don't find a club nearby? Then what do they do?
Well, we've actually come across that a couple of times, and we had a group of people that were, the one person wanted to fly, and they got with their friends, and they actually got a group of them that wanted to do it, and we just started a brand new club.
How
So
many people do you need to start an official sanctioned club?
I believe it's three.
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think you have to have three people to start to start a club,
Yep.
and
Okay.
we started ours with seven,
Oh
but
wow.
there's three that don't fly, but they wanted to be a
Okay.
member. They're interested in it and they want to be a member.
Yeah.
So, you can
How you
start a
start?
membership. You can start a club with people that don't even fly. All you need
Wow.
is those numbers. And then the
That's
two or
good to
three of
know.
you that are interested in racing, you can do it.
That's really good to know, Paul. That is
Yep.
awesome. Well,
There's
thank
more
you so
clubs
much,
around
Paul.
than what you think. There's
Oh yeah.
you think you're in an area where there's nobody there, but you'd be surprised how many clubs are around throughout the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate it very much, Paul. Appreciate having you on, and I'm sure we'll have you back again to talk about some more fun stuff with Help a Beginner or AU or all the stuff the
Sure.
AU's got going on. So,
Yep. There's always something.
yeah, of course there is. That's how it is in the pigeon world, man. There's
Yep.
always something going on.
Yep.
Well, I know you're a busy man, so I'll let you get back to your business. But again, we appreciate having you on this morning, Paul, and hopefully you'll join us again for in the future.
Yeah, you bet. And thank you.
All right, appreciate it, Paul. Thank you so much.
Yep. See ya.
Bye bye. All right, pigeon people, listen up. And yes, I know you're out there. If you're tired of your birds giving you that, you could have upgraded me by now. Look, it's time to visit rpauctions.com. This is the hot spot where racing pigeon breeders buy, sell, and outbid each other like it's the Super Bowl of feathers. The site's easy to use, the birds are top notch, and the bidding gets, let's just say, intense. So do your loft a favor. Head over to rpauctions.com and find a bird that won't judge you every time you walk by. All right, welcome back to another segment of Racing Pigeon Podcast. This is Kevin here with you today, and we are privileged to be joined by Richard from FourFlights Loft up in Virginia. And Richard, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it was a pleasure, man. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So Richard has been killing it in the one loft scene this year, and so he was one of the first ones I reached out to when we formed the podcast for an interview, because we want to know your secret, Richard. What's going on? First of all, tell us about your background. How many years have you been doing one loft races? How'd you get into it? Things like that.
So I've had pigeons for a little under 5 years, I would say. So the first 2 years, or I would say the first year or two, I just had random birds. I didn't really know anything about OLRs. I knew a little bit about club racing. Like back home when I was in the Philippines, when I was young, I've always seen, my family, uncles and older adults just flying pigeons and they're clapping. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And I'm like, I would like to have birds like in the future. I never had that opportunity to have like pigeons when I was young. So when I moved to America with my family, my dad was in the Navy, so we moved around a lot. So when I moved here, fast forward as an adult, I was like, you know what? I got a house now. Let me get some pigeons. And then my coworker, he was club flying, and he just gave me some random birds. So I had 4 birds, and that's why I called my loft the FourFlights Loft.
Oh, interesting. That's a cool
But
backstory.
I originally started with 4 random birds and no pedigree, no names. I believe there were probably Bastines, Trentons, old school bloodlines. My first mentor, Charles Holloway, he was like, try these out. just, we don't know if they're hens or cocks, and during that time, I didn't even know like how to tell between a hen and a cock.
Wow.
And I ended up putting them in a cage, and I'm like, oh, look, they're pairing up, and they ended up being all cocks.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh well, and then I ended up building a little tiny loft, and it was the size of a kitchen cabinet. I literally built it with a small like kitchen cabinet, with a little window, and they had like little perches, and the size of that was so tiny. It was very compact. But then I was able to train them. They were flying around. They were. I didn't have a chance to actually drive out and fly them out miles away, but they were flying around for hours and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So that's where I learned about about homing abilities with these birds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then from there, hawks are starting to come around. I ended up having one left, and I actually, yep, I actually still have that one bird.
No way.
And he's like my mascot. So
that's cool.
He's probably the best one out of there.
That's cool.
So
has he bred you any winners?
What's that?
Has he bred you any winners?
No, I actually never actually, try to breed him. I actually did breed him, and I sent them out to like a few club members, and some of them just didn't get lost. But that's actually a good idea to kind of like see if he's actually capable of breeding winners to OLRs. But as at the time being, he's just there as my pet.
Yeah.
I'll come in the loft, he'll come in my hand, I'll hand feed him and stuff like that. So I'll fly him like once in a while, and he'll come back. Like he'll disappear for like a day, and he'll come back. Sometimes I'll get worried, but he will come back. But there's the times where I'm not even gonna fly him because he's like my very, very first bird.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So from that, how did you get involved in the One Loft world then?
So fast forward into that. So within like probably, I would say 2022, that's when I started joining like Facebook group. You know what I mean? Like Pigeon Central. I started meeting, chatting with a few guys. During that time, I was actually reading into like club racing, and that's what I wanted to do in the beginning. And then I found out how it could be like very time consuming, like with training. And then during that time, clocks were very expensive, and
they still are.
Just to get started off, I just told myself, you know what, I'm not going to have time for this. And then that's when One Loft race, opened another door for me, like a window of just, I'm like, oh wow, there's actually people winning, and you can actually, become a breeder, a well-known breeder. And I've seen people like sell birds. I'm like, wow, maybe this is something that I could do. And I gave myself like 5 years. I told my wife, I said, look, because she was like curious, like, what are you doing here? What's going on? You know how our wives are, because you're investing a lot of money in this, and you're building things. It's very time consuming. And I'm all about time, And then I told my wife, I said, look, give me 5 years. And if I don't see any potentials in this, I'm just going to drop.
Move on.
So, so that's when, like I said, in 2022, I reached out to a few breeders. In the beginning, that's when, a lot of us start like doing our research. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And just, looking at breeders, looking at who's actually winning during that time. And for me, I didn't really know it all. So I was just buying birds left and right. I had a ton of birds. Like, I really didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I must have had maybe like, 20 pairs in the beginning.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, probably a little bit more, because everybody goes through this pigeon bug.
Oh
yeah. You understand what I mean? You just buy and buy.
Oh, I get it.
What I mean? Oh, look at this bird right here. Look at this. This Wolverine. Like during that time, the Wolverine was very popular.
Oh yeah.
And I was trying to get a hold of like Wolverine bloodline or
Wolverine and Abigail and
Mona Lisa. And that's that was like priority. It's just, try to reach out to people. And some of these breeders would just have like random birds with Wolverine in it, and I was like, okay, I want it. How much is it? $300?
Oh, wow.
Ooh, that's a little expensive. You know what I mean? So, but as I progressed from 2022, that's when I started combining birds. So I was
Okay.
just breeding random birds.
Yep.
And I sent them all out. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So I would say, 2021 to 2022.
Yep.
And that's when I got in a hold, when I actually got in a hold of Frank McLaughlin's birds.
Mm-hmm.
I made friends with Landing Strip Loft.
Mm-hmm.
I also made friends, one of our club members named Phil Smithers.
Okay.
And
Yep.
he was able to acquire a few good birds from AFL.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Facebook, like I said, Facebook group, that's when I ran into I saw Thomas Baldwin.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I saw a Greek Connection.
Yep.
And then from there, I just started just connecting. You know what I mean? I'm saying, all right, I'm just going to try to breed this and just outcross them, see how they do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when 2022, I started doing fraternity races.
Mm-hmm.
They were affordable during that time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Versus to OLRs, because OLRs can get extremely expensive.
Oh, yes.
And that's where I started with fraternity race. And I think I won my first fraternity race with the Purple Heart.
Oh, nice.
I think I was 8th place on the final. That bird ended up getting auctioned as well. I ended up buying that bird back.
Gotcha. Yep.
That cost me a leg. But it was well worth it. He ended up becoming a super breeder for me.
Yep. There you go.
So
there you go.
But yeah, and then 2023 was probably my biggest highlight of my OLR career.
Okay.
So 2023. So all the birds that I tested out on 2022, I poured it all to sent out for 2023.
Okay.
So that's when I actually gotten a lot more wiser.
Gotcha.
And I was able to make friends with better mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And they pretty much guided me in how to breed and what to look for. And during that time, it was more about performance.
Yep.
It's not about bloodline. For me, I don't really care what the bloodlines are.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time when I was posting pigeons, I'll post a pigeon, I would always put Wolverine, Abigail, Mona Lisa, Crosswood, Ornat, and all that stuff.
Yep.
That does not matter.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter. What a lot of people don't understand is that when you put all those birds together, it becomes one bird.
Exactly.
One bloodline. You can't give credit to one of those birds.
That's right.
You got to give credit to all of them birds.
To all of them, yeah, exactly.
To all of them. So once you produce a winner, a big money winner, that's a new bloodline.
Yep.
And that's what pretty much everybody in Europe, top winning guys, once you produce a winner, that is your bloodline.
That is your bloodline now. That's right. We have a FourFlights Loft bloodline now.
So that's what I've been progressing on. Like I said, in 2023 was probably one of my biggest highlight. One of my biggest win was Apple Cup. I won $18,000 there. I was second place on the final. And then it was just nonstop in 2023. So I had Sooner Challenge where I was 6th on the final, 8th overall average speed bird. Wow. After that, I won money on Martinez Classic. I believe I was 6th average speed at Martinez Classic. Sweet. And then that's when Apple Cup hit. And then a year after that, we had the Florida Pigeon Derby, which was in 2024. Yep. And then that's when I won early 2024. So that race was a 2023 all the way up to 2024.
Yeah. So we call that a yearling race, don't we?
Yeah, the yearling race. Yep. So that on the optional 400 miles, I won. I was 3rd place nice. On the 400 miles, and I won like $14,000, which I called my Stormbreaker family.
Okay. Yep.
And from there, that is all linked to all my winners.
Okay. Gotcha.
So pretty much all of my 2023 winners have all crossed out, merging into 2024 and then 2025.
2025. Gotcha. So you're really building your own family.
Yes, base pretty much what I always try to tell people is you want to base everything on performance.
Yep.
And it's not an easy process. It's
oh no.
There's a lot of like just doing your own research, and also it's a big investment.
It is, yeah.
And especially to test your birds, not to mention building a loft, your time being in the loft, food, buying birds nowadays, it's not
getting insane, aren't they?
Yeah, the more they progress, the more performance behind that, that bird, it's going to cost you a lot nowadays.
Exactly. So tell us about this past One Loft season. So fall of 2025, how did you do?
So 2025, my biggest win was probably AGN.
Okay.
So AGN,
they're in California, right?
Yeah, that's in California.
California. Okay. Yep.
So I had two of my buddies that entered OLRs with me, but I sent out my own birds.
Okay.
And we were able to clear almost $25,000. So I was second place against, I think, 720 birds, and that bird was I believe was third average speed.
Oh, sweet.
And then my second bird was 16th on the final, and that bird was sixth overall average speed.
Wow.
So they both cleared like close to 25K in that race.
Oh my gracious.
And that goes back to Stormbreaker.
Okay.
So the mother and father of the bird 336, which is my second place winner, I call Daenerys.
Okay.
The mother of that is Stormbreaker.
Okay.
Winner of 2020, 2023 and 2024 Florida Pigeon Derby.
Oh,
and then the father is the Predator, the winner of my Sooner Challenge bird.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you see what I mean? How I evolved from like just focusing on bloodlines to now focus on my birds that are winners and performance.
Yeah. We have a saying in the pigeon world, don't we? Winners breed winners.
Yeah. Right? That's true. That's true. But sometimes there's winners that don't breed winners. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not always true. You can have a winning bird, and sometimes it's not going to breed you a winner instantly. Let me give you a perfect example. Jean Grey, which is my $18,000 winner from Apple Cup.
Okay.
Is a winner. And she didn't have she wasn't on average speed.
Okay.
And a lot of people, I would say the same thing, that she won by luck.
Yeah.
But
she was a one-off.
Yep. And honestly, the Apple Cup is not an easy race. And it was a tough day on that final. So I gave her a lot of credit. Mm-hmm. So I brought her in as a breeder. She didn't breed me winners, but she bred me potential, winners.
Mm-hmm.
They were on the front page, but they didn't really stuck up to like where I want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, I started changing the matings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they started showing a little friction.
Okay. Gotcha.
But don't get me wrong, her siblings also have won as well. And her siblings are also breeding winners for others. So that's when I kind of held her in as like, you're going to be a potential breeder soon. Some people would just get a bird. If they don't breed anything the next year, they'll, get rid of her.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, they'll give them 1 year. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I look at data, and I just look at like, if there's potentials going on, that's when I move on forward.
Yeah.
So this year she's gonna be I paired her up with the Predator for 20, I believe it's 2024. Mm-hmm. They showed up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I sent them to like some of the hardest races. Like for example, Peach Classic.
Oh yeah.
So
it was Cotton Classic. Yeah, Cotton Classic this year, right?
Yeah. So they went from Peach to Cotton Classic.
Yeah, but it was still a challenging race.
No, it is. It is a challenge, and it is a challenging race. I believe it was like a boot camp for the birds.
Yeah,
you really just have to survive.
Yeah. We call this Survivor Series, right? That's great. Well, Richard, you've been having great success. Now, what kind of advice would you give maybe a new listener, a listener who's thinking about this, but they're not really sure how to get into the one loft world. You're pretty recent entrant yourself. What's the best piece of advice you could give somebody?
So the best advice I would tell a new person is to do your research. Do your research, have a purpose of what you're trying to do, and stick with that one purpose. I've seen a lot of new guys will get into pigeons and they'll start gathering different type of pigeons like rollers, colored birds, and then once you get into that area of pigeons, you got to stick with one thing. It's either you're going to do club racing or OLR. Some breeders, they can do it. You know what I mean? So have a purpose of what you want to do. If you want to do OLRs, all right, great. Do your research on the certain breeder where you want to get birds. You know what I mean? Look what your budget is and just plan it all out. Because if you're going to jump into, getting pigeons or club racing, you need to have a plan of what you're trying to do and a strategy on how to do it. When I started, I didn't have a strategy. I just said, oh, wow, look at all these birds. And I just started getting birds, ooh, I like how this looks. I like how this handles, and we all get distracted by that. And, we all have to go through that and, lesson learned. And you got to get wise, the first year or the second year. Other than that, you're just pouring money and, in the bucket, and you're just wasting money all year.
Yeah. You're just giving my money to someone like you. Yeah, very good, very good. Now, what age do you find it best to send youngsters out? When you obviously, for new people to enter one loft races, you have to take your babies, and we literally put them in a box and take them to the post office and mail them to the race. What age do you find that to be best for doing that, Richard? Have you found a difference in sending them younger or older, or what's your opinion on that?
So for me, there's not a certain age for me or how many days or how many months where I sent them out. Usually when I look at a bird, right, once they're pretty much weaned, once they get weaned and they start eating on their own and they're drinking on their own and they're perching up top, once I start seeing them perching, that's when I send them off.
That's when you send them. Okay.
That's when I send them. There's no days that I count. I've had birds that I've sent maybe probably like 4 to 5 months old, and they did put it all right. But for me, my goal is for that bird to be eating on its own, it's drinking on its own, and it's able to perch up.
Okay.
If you send a bird anything younger than that, that's not eating on its own, drinking on its own, not perching up, and you send it there, it's going to struggle to get homed and settled in. They're going to get bullied by those other birds that are already smarter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You can send them a little older as well. Because with OLRs, they can settle these birds. These OLRs have the biggest space, the biggest land, and there's only that one home. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. There's not lofts all around them that
Yeah,
they have
yeah,
to get
yeah.
worried about. Yeah, exactly.
With fraternity races, I believe you should send them a little younger. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So but with
Yeah.
OLRs, you can play around with it, and they can be a little older, and and send them from there.
Okay. Now this may be not a great question, but how do you decide which youngsters will go to which races? So how do you decide, oh, these 4 are going to AGN and these 4 are going to Hoosier and these 3 are going to Florida Pigeon Derby? How do you know? How do you decide which bird should go to which race?
So when it comes to races, right? So I'm at a point where let's just say for example, like Hoosier, it's probably on the top of the chain right now.
Yeah.
So when I breed birds, obviously I'm gonna breed my birds that are already breeding winners. You understand what I mean? So I would send babies that are already proven, that already have siblings of winners, straight to Hoosier.
Gotcha.
And then I'll narrow down from races, let's just say, for example, that are not at the top tier. I would send birds that need to be proven that I want to test out, and I'll send them to those.
Okay, gotcha.
Let me just say, for example, I'm not saying that Apple Cup is not with Hoosier, but you know what I mean.
Yep. I got
price wise, you know what I mean. So I would send birds I really want to test out to Apple Cup because it's a lot more affordable.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I want
Yep.
to send my
That's
best birds to the most expensive races because that's where you want to win the most amount.
There you go. Yeah.
With smaller races, yes, if you lose the birds and you don't win, but still you get to test out your birds. You're not going to be scratching your heads like, wow, that cost me like almost
Yeah.
$3,000, $4,000 to just test out these birds.
Yeah, to lose all my birds. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I've been there, Richard. Yeah, no, I get it perfectly. So I know you said at this point bloodlines don't matter, but let's face it, sometimes they do, right? Chances are that bird with no pedigree that was given to you by a friend, chances are that bird's probably not going to breed a winner in a one loft race. More likely a bird you get from John the Greek or Thomas Baldwin or even Gannis, right? Mike Gannis probably has a better chance of winning, right? So bloodlines do have a little bit to say about
yes
races, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, so what type or what bloodlines do you feel like really excel in one loft races in America today?
Hands down, I would say Thomas Baldwin.
Okay.
Like his
and he flies under Baldwin Tilson Loft.
Baldwin Tilson.
Yep.
But he's been in his game for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And if you look at his resume, it's pretty much just nonstop winning. Okay. If he'll have his days or his years that he probably won't win a lot, but you'll have guys that have his birds that are winning. You know what I mean? But I'm consistently seeing him on the front page. So I would say Thomas Baldwin, hands down.
Hands down. Best bloodline for one loft racing. Okay.
One loft racing. And there's other guys too, like, Greek Connection. I have some of his birds as well. Okay. And Namelka's out there too. Is probably he's really good out there. I don't have any of his birds. Frank McLaughlin, he's been in the game for many years. He's got some good birds as well. I do have some not directly from Mike Gannis, but I believe Mike Gannis has some really good birds as well.
Yeah.
So, and also AFL, Ado Family Loft.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So I started using his birds as well. So all those birds mixed into one.
Gotcha. So we have new listeners listening. Most of those guys that Richard just mentioned, most of them have Facebook pages or websites. So, those are the places you should start. If you're interested in one loft racing, look up Thomas Baldwin, look up Mike Gannis, look up ADL, look up John the Greek, look up Joe Namelka, look up these people, right? Because these are the people that have been successful in one loft races. And if you get stock from them, the chances are better, right, Richard? Wouldn't you agree?
Oh,
that you're also going to be successful.
Yep. There's a lot of there's YouTube channels as well that you can look up. Frank McLaughlin has a great YouTube channel, and he's straight up. He'll tell you everything that you need to know. Yeah. He's got some good birds as well. He's not really very active on like Facebook and advertising his success. Yeah. But he's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Richard. Well, where are you planning to fly in 2026? Where should I avoid?
I actually haven't sat down where I want to send. I actually haven't even paired up yet. I'm actually going to pair up. Yeah, I'm not in no rush. Okay. I would say I'm a week late from schedule when I paired up last year. Okay. So last year I paired up on January 4th.
Okay.
So now I'm just a week late.
Yep.
So now when it comes to pairing up, when I first started, I was pairing up when everybody was pairing up.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And I didn't have a purpose. Yep. I'm like, oh wow, everybody's pairing up on Facebook, right?
So I'm gonna do it too.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it too. Like Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving, I'm gonna pair up. You know what I mean? I'm like, and then once I pair up, I got all these extra birds. I'm like, oh my God, like what am I supposed to do?
What am I gonna do with them?
Am I supposed to send them or okay, I'll just send them here? And that throws you off schedule. So
you have to make a plan.
You got to have a plan. So you want to pair up based on your plan.
Yep.
Don't pair up because everybody's pairing up.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
this is what new flyers may not understand. Planning to fly a one loft race, it starts way before you even put the birds together.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to have a plan already in place before you even put your breeders together.
Yep.
So, and that's just part of the fun of the sport, of the hobby that is most fascinating, and so that's great. Well, Richard, hopefully we see you at a lot of one lofts this year, and hopefully you have very continued success.
Yeah, yes,
And,
yes.
we wish you great luck in the future, and hopefully you'll come back and join us in the future for some other interesting topics and things that we'll talk about revolving the one loft world. So, any final thing you wanna say? We'll give you the final word.
I want to wish everybody best of luck this year for 2026. It's going to be a very, very interesting year, and I hope you guys send your best birds, man. I believe OLR just gets tougher and tougher. Climate changes all the time. Predators, there's always new predators out there, and birds change over time. I believe, with all these climates, they have to acclimate, with distance, winds, and all that. So you got to keep finding the best birds that just keeps excelling and excelling.
Yep. And those are things we'll talk about in the future, races, that have different geography and different climates and things like that. So there's a lot to talk about in the sport.
There is.
We're just getting started. So thank you so much, Richard. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, man. I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good, my friend.
And it was a pleasure talking to you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too, my friend. Take care. All right, Pigeon people, listen up. And yes, I know you're out there. If you're tired of your birds giving you that, you could have upgraded me by now, look. It's time to visit rpauctions.com. This is the hot spot where racing pigeon breeders buy, sell, and outbid each other like it's the Super Bowl of feathers. The site's easy to use, the birds are top-notch, and the bidding gets, let's just say, intense. So do your loft a favor. Head over to rpauctions.com and find a bird that won't judge you every time you walk by.
All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in for episode 3. That was great, Kevin. Great interviews. And I think you said you got some more ready for next week for us.
Yep, we sure do. We'll hear from some more hobby insiders next week with some more insight.
Sounds good. Email us at racingpigeonpodcast.com, at gmail.com. Give us some ideas, and when we're looking for interviews, we'll see if we can find some experts in that field. Other than that, we will see you next week.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.